If you have shoulder pain from a rotator cuff injury, from subacromial impingement syndrome, from perhaps a slap tear, a labrum tear, a frozen shoulder, or maybe just creaky, crunchy shoulders and you'd like to fix it, you've come to the right place. My name is Lucas, I'm a yoga teacher, and in this video I'll walk you through the anatomy and the physiology of your shoulder, and I'll share with you a 7-minute routine that can help you to do self-care at home for your shoulders. I often have students come to class and they have long-term chronic problems in their shoulders and they are taking things like ibuprofen. Sometimes people are getting cortisone shots. I've even had many students who've had surgeries. If those things work, that would be amazing. Unfortunately, they rarely do work long-term. Usually you have to take the healing process into your own hands to get long-term results. If you have shoulder problems, it can really screw up your life. It can impede upon your quality of life and keep you from doing the things that you love. So it's definitely worth investing time in self-care. Before we jump into this, just a quick disclaimer. I'm a yoga teacher. Please always trust your medical provider, especially if you're dealing with an injury. Err on the side of caution. This is for educational purposes only. Okay, let's start off by looking at the anatomy of our shoulder to understand why it's so problematic. This is your glenohumeral joint. This is where your humerus, your arm bone, meets your scapula, your shoulder blade. It's a ball and socket joint, but check it out. It's very, very shallow. What that means is the plus side is we get a ton of range of motion in our shoulder. In fact, it is the most mobile joint in our entire body. That's the good news. The bad news is the stability or lack thereof of this shoulder joint is determined by the muscles and connective tissues that support it. Let me quickly just show you the motions, the movements that your shoulder is capable of. Then you'll start to get an idea about why we have so many problems. So my shoulder joint, where my arm meets my shoulder, it can abduct. This is where I go out to the side. It can adduct. This is where I come back in. It can medially rotate towards the inside. It can laterally rotate towards the outside. I can also flex my shoulder joint. That's where my arms go above my head. I can extend my shoulder joint. I can even hyperextend my shoulder joint. Those are all the things you're capable of, but here's what most of us do. We work on a computer, we drive a car, we play with a mouse, we chop some carrots. That's it. Very rarely do we take our arms above our head. Almost never do we take load into our arms. Very rarely do we hyperextend our shoulders. And what that means is this incredibly capable mobile joint has atrophied. The soft tissues have been neglected, and because of that, it's really prone to injury. You go out and you play a game of tennis, you come home with a screwed up shoulder. You start to do a new workout routine, and 2 weeks into it, your shoulder is trashed. It's no wonder. Let's take a little bit of a closer look at these soft tissues so you can understand what's going on. This model will give you a little bit of a better idea about what's happening in this glenohumeral joint. Let's first take a look at the muscles of the joint, the rotator cuff muscles. On the back side here, there are two muscles that are really important for lateral rotation. Imagine I'm winding up to hit a tennis ball. And here we have Infraspinatus, and down here on the bottom, its assistant is Teres minor here on the bottom. These muscles contract to open my shoulder to the outside. It's called lateral rotation. Up here on top, we have Supraspinatus, and this is one of the more problematic muscles. It's a small one, and it's involved in what's called abduction, as my arm opens to the side. As I get higher up, my delts and my traps come online as well. But this little supraspinatus muscle is largely responsible for this movement. It's a small one, and it butts right up against here in the roof of my shoulder joint. We'll talk more about this in just a moment. The fourth muscle of the cuff is right here on the inside, and this is called Subscapularis. This is the biggest one. It's the strongest one. Creates the least amount of problems. This is the one that helps us turn our shoulder inwards like this. Let's come back to our supraspinatus on the top here. Here's the problem. On the roof of our shoulder, there is a ligament here. This is a physiological joint where my humerus, my arm bone, articulates with this piece of soft tissue. This coracoacromial ligament right here up on top. Very often, like an old leather belt, the arch can start to collapse. The arch can start to lose its elasticity. It's a very common source of impingement. The joint literally can start to collapse, create compression on that supraspinatus, but also the entire joint. So when we look at this 7-minute routine, which I'll share with you in just a moment, what we'll be working on is very, very gently creating strength in these forecuff muscles, and a little more aggressively creating more space on the top of this joint, applying Wolff's Law, where we apply a little bit of stress to create more space and to reestablish the arch of this ligament here on top. Now, before we get into these exercises, I just want to emphasize that this video assumes that you have pain and maybe even an injury. So everything that we're doing is very, very gentle and very accessible, knowing full well that within a couple of weeks or a couple of months, it's very likely that you will graduate from this and move on to something a little bit stronger. But always, when you have joint pain, better to start off simple, better to err on the side of caution, and move forward with baby steps. Let's start off by looking at hang therapy. Let me show you our 7-minute daily routine. There are 3 purposes for this routine. Number 1, we'd like to apply Wolff's Law to create more space on the roof of that shoulder joint, just to decompress everything. Number 2, we'd like to articulate our joint fully and lubricate. You've probably heard that motion is lotion. This is true for your shoulder joint. We need to move everything. And number 3, we'll be establishing some really basic strength for our rotator cuff muscles to apply more stability to the joint. Let's start off with a passive hang, and I'll show you how to do this using a door frame. If you have a pull-up bar, gymnastics rings, or a yoga trapeze, those work even better, but I'll assume you have none of those, and I'll show you how to do this using just a strap and a door frame. I've got a basic belt, a yoga belt here, a yoga strap, but you could use anything around the house, including like a robe belt, for example. Let me show you what I'll do. I'll open up the door, I'll hook my belt or my strap in the top corner, and then I'll slam the door closed so that I have something to hang from. Face my back to the strap. I'll start a timer for 30 seconds to begin with. I'll wrap my wrists around the strap so that I don't have to use as much grip strength. Step my feet about as wide as my hips, and I'll squat down, 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 and I'll hang here for 30 seconds from the strap in full shoulder flexion. Good, now in that pose, use your legs as little or as much as you need to. You don't want to feel any sharpshooting pain. A little bit of discomfort is okay, but no pain at all. And when you're doing this, you use your legs more to reduce the pressure, less to increase the pressure on the roof of your shoulder. Now, what if hanging from the strap is impossible? In fact, what if full shoulder flexion is impossible? What you do in that case is you stand next to something like I have here, these shelves, and you place your arms at whatever height you can, and you do a hang here using the wall, using a bookshelf, using the edge of a countertop. You do the exact same routine, but instead of full flexion and hang, you simply place your hands at the level that you can. If you have a frozen shoulder, maybe you only get to here. If you have a major rotator cuff injury, maybe you get to here. That's your hold. That's your first pose. Let me show you the next one. This next poses involve articulating our joint and also strengthening our rotator cuff muscles. The names of these poses suggest the shape that we're making with our arms. So we'll do eyes, we'll do Ys, we'll do a T shape where our arms come out to the side, and finally we'll do butterfly arms. So eyes, Ys, Ts, and butterflies. Again, we're trying to leverage that motion is lotion phenomenon for our joint. We're also trying to strengthen those rotator cuff muscles. Now you can see I'm holding on to 2 yoga blocks. These weigh nothing, 200 grams, something like this. You'll be tempted to grab a heavier weight. Don't do it. If you have pain, if you have a problem, start off light. You can always go heavier. You're going to be surprised how quickly your shoulders fatigue. Many of us haven't used these muscles. It takes a while to build them up. Stand with your feet as wide as your hips. Your outer edges of your feet are parallel. When you're practicing this, there's no swinging or swaying. Your shoulders stay over your hips and your torso stays braced throughout. We'll start off with eyes. The palms of my hands face each other, and I'll inhale my arms up, exhale my arms down. If you can't make it all the way, you go to the place where you feel no more than 5 out of 10 intensity. That was 1 round. I'll do 10 rounds in total. Great. The next pose is a Y shape. When you look down at your hands, you want your hands making a V shape out from your body. I'll be holding the blocks. you might be holding 2 soup cans, but I like the palms of my hands facing in at about a 45-degree angle, and I'll inhale my arms up in a Y shape, exhale them back down. I'll do 10 in total. Again, if for whatever reason you're unable to fully flex your shoulders, you work in the range where you feel comfortable. Let's define comfortable as 5 out of 10 intensity, no more, and absolutely no sharp shooting pain. Next, we'll work on T position. T position, the palms of my hands face down towards my sides, and I'll inhale my arms out to 90 degrees, and I'll exhale, lower them back down. My shoulders stay over my hips. I'll do 10 in total. For the final pose, we'll do butterflies. Your arms extend out at 90 degrees. Inhale, open your arms out to the sides. Exhale, arms back together. Again, you work in the range that works for you. If 90 degrees is too high, lower them down to 30. If 30 is too high, start at 20 degrees. Wherever you can work from, that's where you work from. We inhale, open. We exhale, close. My shoulders stay over my hips. Let's begin together. Great. So we did 10 I's, 10 Y's, 10 T's, and then 10 butterflies. And now we loop back and we do the whole routine again. 30-second passive hold, 10, 10, 10, 10. With our rotator cuff exercises, you do the routine 4 times in total. Should take you around 7 minutes. If you do this every day, very quickly, you should start to feel quite a bit more space, freedom, flexibility, and slowly but surely strength in your shoulder joint as well. Hope you find that 7-minute routine helpful. If you'd like to learn more about the shoulder joint, I'd very much recommend Dr. John Kirsch's work on shoulder pain. And if you look into the wolf phenomenon in terms of changing both hard and soft structures of your shoulders, very interesting. I'll link up in the notes down below as well. If you'd like more science-based yoga information, please hit subscribe. If you have questions about anything that we've covered, I answer all my comments. You can post down below. And lastly, to find my teaching schedule, go to yogabody.com. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you in the next one.